Hey there, creative commuter. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Spring is in the air. It is springtime officially. The birds are chirping. This week I saw flowers actually blooming. The trees are budding. Grass is coming up from the ground, and it is spring. It's in the air. And with it, I have found a newfound motivation. I don't know about you, but it feels like the world is beginning to open back up for many of us in many parts of the world. And it's bringing up this newfound feeling of spring and excitement and just budding amazingness. But it's also bringing up some new anxieties for me. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling like, oh my goodness, all of these new things. And I feel like I need to do it all. And I'm feeling just a little bit of stress coming up for myself. What is this new world going to be like? Will things be the same? Do I even want things to be the same? What do I want to be the same and what don't I? So, some of these questions are coming up for me. I don't know if you've had this experience at all, but it's exciting that it feels like, oh, we're like, oh, so hopeful and on the verge of things getting back to what we might consider normal. But there's also like these weird social anxieties that are popping up because we've all been kind of in our homes and we haven't been hugging people and we haven't been high-fiving and handshaking and just all of the normal things that we would do. And it feels like, okay, when is this going to start again? And things are changing. And it's just a really, really interesting time. And I just want to like take a deep breath. Like just take a moment to just take a deep breath, reset, reassess, and just take stock of where you're at. Take stock of where you're at. Right now is a really great time to do some mental spring cleaning. What have you learned about yourself in the past year? It's a really great time to ask these questions of yourself and really take stock of what have I learned? What do I want to keep doing? Is there anything that I've gained in my life? Is there anything that I had lost that I really truly missed? Are there things that I lost that I don't really mind that those things are gone? Take this time to really look at what are the things that I want to spring forward into this year and what are some of the things that I can leave behind. Now, I realize that January is usually the time that we set big, huge goals for ourselves, but I would actually argue, and in fact, my husband Joey and I had this conversation just this week, that spring is actually a better time to really take a step back and look at where we're at so that we can start anew. It's such a good time. It's that time that we're just ushering in goodness and really just sitting in our own creativity and the things that we really enjoy. And this kind of big mental deep breath is so important for us to do. And it really feeds our happiness. Stepping back and really doing that self-reflection is so key to really knowing what are the things that I truly enjoy. Ask yourself that question. And your own personal happiness, your happiness is so important to your creativity. This is actually a I mean, many studies have looked at our happiness and our creativity. And the happier you are, the more creative you are. And so, if you are really feeling like you're in your creative flow, you're most likely also feeling really happy. So, happiness is the true elixir for unblocking ourselves creatively. Speaking of elixirs, I know of another smooth delicacy for unblocking your creativity. I've teamed up with Nameless Coffee, a local roaster here in Wichita, Kansas, who partners with farmers in Guatemala to make the very best fair trade coffee that has ever graced my creative palate. Yes, every cup of creative fuel funds three families: mine, the good people at Nameless Coffee, and a farming family in Guatemala. Power your morning with your own fresh batch of Creative Fuel coffee beans. You can get them at creativecommute.com. Spring is such a wonderful time. It gives us the boost of energy that we need to get out there and do some of the things that we've just kind of been letting pile up. I don't know about you, but I have been physically letting things accumulate in my house. I looked around my house just this weekend and I was like, there are things just accumulating, piling up on our end tables in places that they normally would not. But I actually feel like this is true mentally too. We've all been stuck in our houses for a year, and more so than we ever have. Now, depending how much you've been getting out there, it's probably more than me because I just filled up my gas tank for the first time in months. I don't go anywhere. But, to some extent, we've all been more stuck at home than we have before, and we're letting stuff pile up. But this is also happening in our own heads. In the winter, we naturally conserve, we hoard things. It's in our nature to just hoard and grab onto things. And I mean, think of like squirrels in the winter. They go and they get all of their nuts, and they even pack on extra pounds, which if you're anything like me, that's been true this winter too. And we hang on to all of this stuff. Mentally and physically, we just hang on to stuff. And by the end of winter, we can really start to find ourselves in a funk with all the stuff. We've got all of this stuff and all of these thoughts that have been just ruminating with us for months. And I have found myself in a real funk actually the past few weeks. And I recognized, and Joey fortunately helped me recognize too, that this was happening for me. And this weekend, we actually started doing what's called morning pages again. I don't know if you've heard me talk about this before, but it's a practice created by artist Julia Cameron in her book, The Artist's Way. And The Artist's Way is a wonderful, wonderful book for anyone. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome when I first heard of The Artist's Way because of the title, because it's called The Artist's Way. And I've never considered myself, although I write and I do all kinds of different creative things, I've never considered myself to be an artsy person. And so the title of the book, I kind of like, ooh, I instantly felt kind of a little bit of pushback. But I promise you that you don't have to consider yourself an artiste to utilize this book. It's super cheap on Amazon. You can buy it used. I highly, highly recommend it. It's a 12-week program, but really it's a thing that you can do all the time, especially the morning pages. So the morning pages are 3 pages of writing that you do every morning. And what Julia Cameron says is to get all of the crap out of your mind. It's like taking a little duster into the little spaces inside of your brain and just spitting it all out there onto a page. It's a really, really great technique for just getting all of the stuff out of your brain and not feeling guilty about it. What I love about morning pages and the way that Julia teaches this is that it's all about just spitting all the stuff out onto a page, and you never go back and read these pages again. Like the whole point of it is that you put it out there and you don't go back and read it again. You're just getting it out of your brain and onto a page. So it's like a little spring cleaning that you're doing for your brain every single day. So if you want to do the artist way along with Joey and I, pick up the book. You can start at any time and start doing morning pages. Or even if you don't want to do the artist way program, start journaling 3 pages every morning. And it's just a stream of consciousness, just writing, writing, writing. for 3 pages. And your 3 pages can be whatever size you want them to be. If you want it to be a tiny little notebook, that's fine. If you want it to be a big notebook, that's fine. But start doing some spring cleaning of your mind with morning pages. I highly recommend it. So, springtime, it symbolizes renewal and rebirth and blossoming. And I feel like the morning pages are going to help me to get all of that stuff out there. So I picture it almost like raking up all of the old dead leaves off of the yard so that I can allow goodness and space to happen for things to bloom. We're in a new cycle, and we can find ourselves really, really frustrated if we don't allow some space, do some spring cleaning to open up your flow of creative energy. And actually, over the next 2 weeks in the Creative Commute community, we are going to be doing some spring cleaning. We're focusing on tidying up our minds, tidying up and getting the cobwebs out, shaking out all that old stuff. And we're going to do some fun activities, some thoughtful questions to help us do that. But you don't necessarily have to join us in the community as much as I want you to. I'm going to give you some tips right now that can help you get your creative energy flowing again and do some spring cleaning for yourself. So, the first thing that you can do, step outside. Step outside, tilt your head back into the sun, put your sunscreen on first, but then tilt your head back into the sun and just feel it on your face. Roll your sleeves up and just open up your arms and feel the sun on your body. I'm not kidding you. This feels so good, and it will put you in a much better mood. Another thing that you can do while you go out there, oh my gosh, if you did these two things at once, this would be so good. Take your shoes and socks off and feel grass with your bare feet. This is called grounding, and it feels so dang good. Every time I do it, I'm like, oh, why don't I do this more often? So take your socks and shoes off, feel green grass with your toesies if you can. If you live in a really big city, you might not want to do that on some of those little patches that dogs use to go to the bathroom, but go see if you can find a park where you can go and do this. Get your feet in the grass. Another thing that you can do for spring cleaning is, this is the time of year where we start cleaning out our closets, we switch our clothes out. While you do that, while you're going through your things, let go of one item a day. I'm going to do this over the next 2 weeks too. One item a day. What is something that you can donate, that you can gift to someone else so that they can have it? You can get rid of it. Maybe you just have some garbage sitting around in your house that you can just trash. Just get rid of one item a day. It's so cathartic. What's something that you've been hanging on to that you're like, okay, I don't need this anymore. I can give it to someone else. Another thing you can do is find a fresh quote that feels inspiring, or get a new piece of art and put it somewhere you'll see it. Or if you have some really great art in your house that you're not seeing very often, move it into a place where you can regularly see it. In fact, I did that just on my desk today. I moved a piece of art into a place where I can see it more often. It actually says, "Be afraid, but do it anyway." My friend got me this piece of art and I love it. And I'm like, I want to put that in a place where I'm going to see it every single day. So, is there something like that that you can do for yourself that will make you feel inspired every day? And another thing that you can do is examine the habits that you've picked up over the past year. Surely you've had some changes in your life over the past year. If you haven't, I don't know where you've been living. So, examine what some of those habits are. What do you want to do more of? What have you been doing that you're like, oh, I actually really enjoy that? But what's something that you're ready to toss? What's something that you might have picked up over the last year that you're like, I don't really enjoy that so much? Lean into the things that you really enjoy doing. You might even actually find that you're called to try to do something new creatively. If you feel that, listen to that urge. Listen to that urge. You'll feel those this time of year. You'll feel the desire to do something. And whatever that thing is, listen to that. It's a good time to really return to yourself and rediscover doing something that you once loved. Maybe it was something that you loved to do as a child. listen to whatever that urge might be for you. For myself, it's actually skating. I've been seeing people at the park rollerblading, and I'm like, ooh, I really want to get a pair of rollerblades. I really want to pick skating back up. So, whatever that thing is, you're feeling it for a reason. It's time to usher something back into your life that brings you joy. So, listen to it. Again, in the next 2 weeks, we are going to be focusing in the Creative Commute community on doing some of this fun spring cleaning stuff. So come join us in the Creative Commute community on Facebook. You can find the link if you don't already have it at creativecommute.com. You can link right out to the Facebook community. Join us there. It's going to be so much fun. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. It means the world to me that you would spend the time listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please go to ratethispodcast.com/creativecommute and leave a review. Keep shining your beautiful, sparkly, magnificent springtime unicorn light out there for everyone to see. I'll see you next time. Bye.